Kia ora, New Zealand. Welcome to Sweet Chain Live. My name's Matt Drake. This is episode 187. Whew. And we have got a great show for you tonight. I'm joined, as ever, by my host, Morgan Harfeld. Good evening, Morgan.
Kia ora, Matt. How you doing, my friend? Sorry, I was wondering what Mr. Burgess was doing next to me, rather. How are you, my sir?
I should have gone like that almost, because you do have with you NZDG Tour Director Arne Burgess, who's joining us for the show, and we've got Ewan Craig in the green room, who's going to be joining us very shortly as well. But yeah, we've got a great show for everybody today. We're going to go through some hot scores. Well, they're back. The machine is working again.
They are back.
And we also have got Ewan and Arne, who are going to talk through some. Is it exclusive stuff, Arne? I don't know. Can we kind of say? Is it?
Yeah, it's exclusive. It's definitely exclusive. Obviously, the board know about it, but yeah, this is the first time we're going public with some of the stuff. So
fantastic.
Yeah, good to be on.
Fantastic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go through. We've got a few bits of news. We want to have a little debate about tournament. League prices is actually what I want to talk about a little bit later on. So be keen to know your thoughts on how much should or would you be prepared to pay for a league. So we're going to get into that discussion. I think, Arne, you're going to be joining us for most of the discussions as well. So you'll be able to chip in with your thoughts there. We've also got a duck race for your spicy quiz, Morgan. Tell us what that's about.
Yes, we do.
What's going on there?
Yeah, we do. We've got the, excuse me. We do. We've got the duck race for the third spot in the spicy quiz up at Lake Warho next week, which is obviously the precursor to getting into the skins match. So yeah, 9 holes, $100 a hole. But to get into that, one of the spots is via the spicy quiz, where we've currently got 2 people involved, Mr. Steve Reed, Mr. Rob Tadman. Tonight we're looking for the third person, and sometime over the next 7 days, I'll figure out how we get in the fourth person into that quiz.
Excellent. So, so that duck race is going to kick off at some time. Tom will probably tell me in my ear again when that's going to start, and it's going to run for whenever Morgan wants it to start, and it's going to run for
whenever I want
a period of time during the show, and it'll just be streaming along the bottom, so you'll be able to cheer your duck on whilst we're.
I think we're going to run like a 10-minute duck race this time rather than just the straight 60 seconds.
So
as Matt said, we'll just have it down in the bottom corner of the screen, and maybe within the last 60 seconds we might just quickly cut out of the chat and just bring it up on the screen when it gets to that point, and we'll see who's going to get across the line to take that third spot.
That's going to be pretty exciting. So yeah, look forward to that. We're also going to look ahead to the Xtreme, which is happening this weekend. It's the first major of the season that's being played in Tauranga, and yeah, we're gonna be having a look at who we think is going to win across all of the divisions, and yeah, taking a look forward at that. It's one of those events. There's 160 people signed up. It's being run by Disc Shop. They always do a fantastic job at running their tournaments, and they're on a fantastic track, real difficult course, but a very good disc golf course. They got heaps of sponsors. Yeah. We'll go into that a little bit more detail later on.
Jump in there. Look, not that I don't believe in what Hayden does as a product, but it's actually run by the Tauranga Disc Golf Club.
Okay.
Disc Shop definitely. Hayden is the tournament director.
Okay, that's where
he's got the machinery of the Tauranga Disc Golf Club.
Okay, well, them, so. my sincerest apologies to the Tauranga Disc Golf Club.
I do have a quick question, Matt, and the tour director right next to me might be able to answer this. How many events are we into the season now, leading into the first major?
You said you weren't going to ask me questions.
I did. No, I said I didn't have anything specifically prepared for you. But now that we're deep in the game, I'm ready.
We haven't had any NZDG Tour tournaments for a while now. I think the last one might have been Blood Sacrifice.
Okay, down in Wanaka, yep.
Down in Wanaka. I always forget my North Island for knowing they're up there. But
Fault Line will probably be the next one, won't it? After this one.
So we've got the Xtreme this weekend. Again, sorry to the North Island. It's not that I forget you. I love you. but I'm going to Waihi next week. That's an NZDG tour event, B tier. We've actually got 2 back-to-back B tiers, and the North Island and South Island champs are only about 3 weeks apart, three weekends apart. So
yeah, so something we might end up touching on later in the show is the layout of tournaments, in particular major events, when they are being scheduled throughout the year, when they should be scheduled, or when we think they should be scheduled. Because I still feel like we're pretty early in the season. I'm not saying that's not the right way to do it, but I think it's a good talking point later in the show.
It's a good point, because we've already had a North Island Championships 2024 up in Egg Monster. So yeah, look, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But there's a reason. It's a method to the madness at this stage.
We've got a little bit of news to go through. There's some international stuff, and there's some other bits and pieces from around New Zealand. We've got Discdle. We've got Disc Golf Valley. The code is above my head, so get yourself involved in there. All there, isn't it? Get yourself involved on Disc Golf Valley and play along whilst you're watching the show. Settle in. For a night of entertainment. Morgan, hot scores. Take us through the south.
Hot scores. We are back. We are going to start down in the south as always. Which one are we going to start at? I'm not going to start off with the one that he wants me to. I am going to go into Queen's Park in Invercargill. Sorry, my layout is slightly different this week, but 13 under par this week. Mr. Josh Walker getting it done down in Invercargill. Chingford Park, we have Carlos with a 4 under par. We won't skip over him. We will go to Brockville and Mr. Arne Burgess, who is right next to me.
Very good.
6 under par this week, Arne.
Cheers, mate.
Good round?
Yeah, great round. And I have witnesses, just putting it out there. I know how Morgan likes to say that I repeat my rounds on Disc Golf Valley. I did have witnesses.
All right. The Stiffmeister over in Queenstown at the Gardens there, 12 under par this week, gets the job done. Lismore Park, we have Mike and Mundo McDisc, as always, both shooting a hot 11 under par. Jelly Park up in Christchurch, 11 under par, gets the job done for Logan. Mr. Sam Cole, friend of the show, gets the job done with 12 under par this week at Warren Park. Smallbone Reserve, KBG, 11 under par. Queen's Park Reserve, we have Sam Page. I do not know if I've read that name out before, but Sam Page getting the job done with a 7 under par. Saxton Field, and we have Reese Wynne Jones, formerly of Queenstown, now of the Nelson region, 8 under par. And then at Branford, rounding out the south, we have Connor Dove with a spicy 13 under par. Hot shooting down here in the south this week, especially by the man next to me. Let's head north.
So starting up in the capital, Berhampore, it's Josh Groot and Brady Cush who tie in Wellington for a 6 under par. Across the water at Hikoikoi, Ben Morrison hits 6 under par as well. Up at Harcourt, Andy Davey hits 8 under par at Harcourt Park, which is a very good marker ahead of both the league, which starts next week, and Faultline Fury in a couple of weeks' time. Johnny Wake, 10 down at Linklater. Brian Rawlins is 7 down at Maryland's. Flavio Mayorga hits 5 down around the Spa Park Black course. And then there's 2 people, Sam Hitchcock and Mikey Yu, tied at 8 under par for Henderson. So very well done to them.
Mikey Yu headed north, Matt.
Yes, he's playing Tauranga this weekend, so we look forward to that. Over at Wood Hill, Zach Armour and Ben Upton have tied at 3 under par. And finally, Sean Aitken hits 5 under at Rosedale. So well done to everybody who hit a hot score for this week.
Well done.
Now, we're going to bring in our other guest now, Ewan, who should be on screen now. Good evening, Ewan.
How are we going, guys?
I'm all right.
I'm all right. Very
good. It's great to have you both here. So good evening. And you've got something that you wanted to talk about, something that's happening that you're going to be launching soon, or you're going to be putting to the community. Talk us through what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to start? Oh, sorry, boss. You go, mate.
I'll just prefix this conversation for Arne. This is Arne's baby as such. There's been a lot of collaborative kind of input here, but just a few comments just to prefix what Arne's going to run you through, and then I'll hand over to Arne to get into the meat and potatoes as such. So basically, when we were out there looking for your vote. Both Arne and I, we sat there and said, there's things that we think could be done better. There's opportunities we think we could be looking for here that aren't currently being done, and at some point we would come back to you with a whole bunch of sort of changes that we'd like to suggest. But before we go and keep going in that direction, knowing that our time's a bit limited, and we are volunteers, that it'd be good to start a conversation, get a few ideas out, and see what registers and what doesn't, and then make sure we're on the right track and see how we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, awesome. With that in mind, Arne.
Yeah, I just want to talk or support what Ewan says there. Like, I think people don't understand. I definitely didn't understand, but I don't think people understand just the sheer amount of traffic that Ewan gets through his email address. He's just, it's constant. Like, we would have loved to have made these changes months ago, and I think we tried. Like, we tried to have, I think I had my first NZDG corridor pretty much a couple of weeks after we got elected to see what everyone's position was.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that with a 1 year election cycle, there's a lot that you need to sort of learn about. Obviously, there's decisions that are made. There's decisions that are going to be made by us that will affect next year's board, whoever that may be. Vote Ewan and Arne. No, just joking.
But do.
Yeah, but do. So, there's a lot of decisions. Obviously, we were dealing with I was dealing with, as tour director, a tour policy that had already been agreed on by the previous board. So it takes quite a bit. And then, we were talking about it before. Sanctioned tournaments, they take a while to get on the calendar, and in my vast experience of tournament directing of one tournament, I can tell you that they are tough to run. So at the end of it, you're always asking yourself the question, am I going to do it again? And sometimes that takes a couple of months to answer. And so I can understand why some tournament directors take a while to say, yeah, actually, let's run it back. But inevitably, it's quite difficult for us to plan our disc golf season around tournaments because they're just popping up. When tournament directors feel, I do have a bit of energy to run it again. So part of what I'm going to take you through is a bit of hoping to alleviate some of those stresses. So is that up, Tom? Sorry.
Not yet. So this is the screen that's going to be up. You're on now.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. So they can't hear you. Brilliant. Okay, sweet. So I'll talk it through. Sorry, mate. You've got to give the crowd you got to give the people what they want, and clearly they see what they want, right? So if we could go to the next one, a couple of things, and the entire document I'm not going to present tonight, but basically we thought around the things of what are we trying to do? What are we doing with the NZDG tour? So the first question I asked myself is, what is it? What is my proposal? So my proposal is basically to change the NZDG tour and basically to unite all sanctioned disc golf in Aotearoa under one banner.
So, sorry, Arne, just to jump in there. When you say sanctioned disc golf, you mean PDGA sanctioned disc golf?
PDGA sanctioned disc golf.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I suppose it's worth pointing out that in various conversations with the PDGA, me and Ewan have met with the PDGA a couple of times, and we sort of approached the meeting like, oh, hey, Mr. PDGA, we're a little NZDG. We'd really like to improve our communication with you. And they actually fit the script a little bit. And they sort of said, well, actually, no, we're really thankful to have you guys. And so it sort of started this conversation. But what came out of it is the PDGA see NZDG as the one partner for all things in disc golf in New Zealand. So, when it comes to conversations around the PDGA and sanctioning, the way that tournaments are going to run and all that sort of stuff, they've sort of they really pushed us to, hey, actually, you can make up your own decisions, but just keep us in the loop. So they're willing to support what we're willing to do, which is amazing to go into a conversation about. So, all sanctioned disc golf tournaments, not leagues. We don't have a plan for leagues at the moment, under one banner. So basically, you go in, you get your sanctioning for a PDGA tournament. The proposal is that we're going to bring all the tournaments under one banner.
Okay.
Any questions there?
Well, that's quite a big move, right? Because currently there's, I guess, a whole load of tournaments, particularly a lot of like 1-day events. And the ones that spring to mind are things like the Hitting the Links series that Ryan Kiddo and the Manor 2 disc golf guys are doing. 100%. And there'll be other little kind of tours around the place as well. And what you're suggesting is ingesting all of those into NZDG.
Yeah. So by default.
Okay.
So inevitably what we're talking about is that when you go ahead and you get the PDGA sanctioning, it's automatically on a league. I'm not going to say, a league, a tour, not the tour.
Okay.
We'll talk about what I'm talking about there soon. But do you have anything to add there, Big Boss?
No, I think the pretty next stage there, mate. The only thing we would add there probably is that some of this then becomes about making sure this is a fair playing field for everyone. So with some of our tour events now, there are different factors that factor into that, and obviously the NZDG tour policy. So what we're going to achieve by this is everyone on one field as well, one set of rules for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and look, before people sort of jump up and down, because being on the NZDG tour does come with a cost. Part of the proposal is that we would look at that costing. So
that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Where does that sort of costing come into effect? It's obviously per event currently right now for a tour is roughly, we'll just put a $5 number on it now. Does that number stay the same, or does that change when we're getting into lower 1-day events? What's sort of the plan around that?
I mean, and that's a fair question, right? Because that was some of the comments that were heard in prior to the Elite Series starting, right?
Well, that was a big question from me, right? I'll put my hand up and say that was a very big question from me and an issue that I had previously.
What do you get for your money? And if you make it so that everyone's now going to be on the tour, what do you get for your money becomes an even more important question.
So
straight up and down, the easy answer to that is what you're going to get for your money in is access to PDGA sanctioning.
Right.
I mean, it's a little bit more than that.
Well, he's black and white, isn't he? Ewan, and I love it. But we would like a little more context on that.
No,
the other side of that too is that these development things, if we go into numbers, I think off last season, I think the number we set on was about 22 to 23% of total C-tier or bigger events in New Zealand were on the NZDG tour. So if you think about that in terms of being, for lack of a better word, an income stream for NZDG, is that makes up our income. The income then goes back into things like WAS travel grants and any other initiative that we fund or media grants, etc. So 23% of the tournaments in New Zealand held the entire burden for everything you enjoyed as a player of disc golf in New Zealand. And that's again the equitable kind of playing field conversation coming back into things as well.
So I think it's probably a good time to point out that a proposal is not, this proposal in particular is one that I don't intend for the board to vote on alone. So there's things within this tour proposal that actually fundamentally need a change in the NZDG constitution to enable, but we already know that the constitution needs to change to keep in line with legislation. So
Yeah.
the 2023 Incorporated Societies Act. So, and that's something that actually all clubs in New Zealand are going to have to do as well. They're going to have to look at their own constitutions and change that. So we, as a board, we cannot make decisions on changing the constitution. That has to be put to a member vote.
Yeah.
And so if we're to propose, if we're to move forward with this proposal, there's actually we have to go back to our membership to do it. So we're not, as the directors, going to make the decision. We will be putting it out, and it potentially will come in the form of an SGM or an AGM. So, I mean, I've really like for whoever the tour director is for next year, I'd really like for them to have a robust tour structure and plan in place before they even get in. So my preference is an SGM, a special general meeting. But yeah, anyway.
Just a question on that, right? And I know it's slightly off topic to what we're talking about, but saying that you want to have this robust, ready for the next board.
Yeah.
Is that how you? Because I feel like that's maybe what the last board had for you, in line for you.
Yeah.
Being able to walk into something, but then you guys obviously aren't too happy with what was there and are looking for change. So is this just going to carry on a trend?
Well, actually, what I've found is that through searching through all the documents, a lot of the proposals that I'm putting into this proposal, like a lot of the things, Andrew Fleming, there's documents talking about it already. So the conversations were already going on. They just potentially never eventuated. And knowing the amount of time that Ewan and I and the other board members have actually spent reacting to certain things in disc golf, I can understand why the previous board weren't able to potentially action some of those ideas. That
I feel like this really highlights the issue around a 12-month tenancy of the board.
12 months or just 5 people, I think, is another thing to point out. There's just 5 of us. It's me, Ewan, Matt, Calvin, Lucinda. That's it. And so there's 7 directors' positions. But there's also the ability for people to come on and go, you know what, I don't give a crap about the finances. I just want to help out with the tour. Or actually, I'm a bit of a social media whiz. I'll help out with social media. There's room for that. Like, we've been begging for it for a long time. So if you're keen, come join us.
So take us through the next steps in the proposal.
Yeah, cool. So the why, Ewan's already pointed it out. In 2023, 72% of sanctioned disc golf wasn't on the tour, and speaking to some tournament directors, potentially the tour policy, I think over the last year, there's been a real rise in one-dayers, pop-up one-dayers on golf courses and whatnot. And the tour policy is quite prescriptive in what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And so for me to allow all tournaments, if PDGA says, yep, you're all good, we need to create a policy that allows the it seems such a strange that such a shame that the Topor thermal throwdown wasn't on the tour. We're talking about a tournament sold out in minutes. One of the most picturesque venues, and it's not on the tour. I played it.
Fantastic tournament, great tournament.
Yeah. So why do we not have room for that tournament to be on the tour? It seems a little bit ridiculous.
Sorry, I might have just missed that as I was reading a couple comments in the chat. Did you not have room for it? Was it not allowed on the tour?
Well, it depends how you interpret the tour policy. I think that there's room for it. But then even if there was room for it, and if it was allowable, the tour's got to be worth it, right? It's got to be worth it for those tournaments. Topor thermal throwdown clearly didn't need to be on the tour to sell it. So it becomes this conversation about value proposition. What is the value proposition that NZDG are offering to our members and to our TD?
And in the past, the NZDG tour, the value of being the tour champion, if you like, was very, I felt was very little. It was never bigged up. It was always took you know, you say to anyone, do you want to win nationals or NZDG Tour? People are saying nationals every single time, and it's not like, oh, it's like 66-33. It's like 99-1, right? It's like such a landslide to with you know, to it's a kind of
so just moving on to that why, like, I think there's a lot I'll be able to, when we get to the actual like flowchart part, there'll be heaps that I'll be able to answer, but I had a lot of feedback from my first corridor with the public, but also since then, because it's been a while, that when we're talking about the actual growth of the sport, maybe the tour didn't really cater to that. There's no mechanisms for that. It's not as if we're using the tour to build new courses or to start up new or help new clubs and new regions start up.
Yeah.
So I think what will happen when we see the model, there's a very clear revenue split. Like, it's prescribed, whereas at the moment we do get either $5 or $7 per player per tournament. Then it goes into a pot of funding. And then there's a whole bunch of policies that NZDG needs to interpret. And then any tournament director can apply for a media grant or a social media rebate or previously travel grants, things like that. We've got a pot of money and people ask for something and then the board just decide, oh yeah, we'll give you this much, this much, this much.
Okay.
When we move into the model, you'll see that it becomes, right, we know exactly when the money comes in, this much is going this way and this much is going that way. I just want to keep talking through this. Sorry, no one can hear Tom, but I just want to, so I want to create a transparent funding stream for the NZDG Tour. Like, we want it to have a prize at the end that is worth it. That's probably the big one. To balance the NZDG Tour fairly, so some of the feedback that we had early on was that because there's more tournaments in the south, the North Island is unfairly weighted. So the North Island, you're going to have to travel a long way to get your 6 tournaments in. Whereas in the south, if you live in Christchurch, you know, there's potential that maybe you'll be able to knock your 6 tournaments off without going further than a couple of hours.
That's a fair point.
And then the last one is I want to make the NZDG Tour worth it. So when you're talking about, you know, nationals is an important thing because you're the national champion, right? I want the NZDG Tour champion to mean something.
Yeah.
Not just for MPO and FPO, for MA40 and no other division. No, I mean, every other division. You know, I want to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Because people do chase it. Like, it is, I have a lot of friends that play disc golf and they do chase the tour title. And then I've got a bit there. I'm not really going to talk to it around when, but there is a bit there. Look, there's a process that we have to follow, that we want to follow. I mean, I could sit there and go to the board, hey, do you like this? Yep, all good. Let's vote for it. And if I can get 3 people on my side, we could pass it. But I don't want to be a part of a governance model that's like that. If people don't like what I'm saying here, if they tell me, no, I don't like it, then I'll change it.
I don't like to jump in just, you know, when you're in the middle of something, but I do need to point out this one comment. Syrup Designs Limited will add $1,000 to the NZDG Tour winners prize pool. That has just come up in the chat from Mr. Bother.
Yeah, look, any sponsorship. A sponsorship, something that coming into NZDG, sponsorship and funding, I was just like, man, you're the national body. You should be able to get sponsorship real easy. It's way harder than I ever thought about it. You know, like getting funding from Sport New Zealand is actually 1,000 times easier for a club, because people don't understand that as NZDG, we don't run courses. You know, it's not as if NZDG owns the gardens and we maintain the tee pads and the baskets and whatnot. That's the Queenstown Disc Golf Club. And so the reality is that Sport New Zealand want an output. So they're not going to give money to NZDG to sit and have a meeting every month and send emails continuously. they want to put money into T-pads, baskets, new courses, children playing disc golf, elderly playing disc golf, programs for schools. And the thing is that we can't do that as NZDG. It's up to you as clubs, tournament directors, schools, whatnot. So, yeah, if there's no questions, you can move on to the model, but I'm happy to take some.
I will just run through the chat. Sorry, Mel. We'll just run through the chat quickly. Just starting where people started sort of commenting here. It was Ocean Discs, Mr. Ollie.
Yeah.
What's up, Ollie? He said the joys of politics. And then he said, has there been discussions around changing the board terms from 1 year to 2 years to enable board directors more time to execute their goals?
That'd be ideal. It's a constitution thing. It's in our constitution.
Yep.
It's a 1 year thing. So
yeah, and then Leon right after that, board needs to be for at least 2 years so they can action their changes. Brett Carlisle agree. Matty Rance agree. One thing here, which Brett just wants to confirm, and it has sort of been confirmed in the chat, but would this proposal mandate that sanctioned events have to be part of the tour?
Yeah, I'll flip it on script and say they get to be a part of the tour.
Is that flipping it? Because I do, like, honestly, because I support everything that you're doing, but I do feel like that is a hand forced.
It is hand forced. And look, I'm sitting next to a fellow that's a good friend of mine, but inevitably, I think there's room for something like the Elite Series to exist, but I think that it should still come under a national governing body. There should be room for people that want to do something over and above and better to work with a national sanctioning body. Mm-hmm. So it's not to limit or eliminate the opportunity for an Elite Series or something similar to come up. It's just to sit there and go, the PDGA have told us, if you want to play ball with sanctioned disc golf, you've got to come to an agreement with the governing body. Because inevitably, it's the only democratic process that exists at the moment within disc golf in New Zealand.
I do find it just an interesting one because you obviously touched on before that you haven't quite leaned into leagues yet. So we can leave that one alone.
Yeah.
But then one thing you've been talking about and Alan's been talking about recently is club championships. Yeah. Things like that, where we obviously want to have that PDJ sanction, but it's also obviously going to be at the bare minimum cost to the player to get involved. If not, and I'm not saying this for the Queenstown club, this is just me thinking off the cuff, but if not covered by a club, if that's within the funding model of said club.
Well, look, we have the ability at the moment to waive NZDG levies. So I'll go out on a limb and I'll just be really transparent. If you're smart enough and looking it up, you'll understand that we have offered levy free to the North Island and South Island champs. Because inevitably, what's in it for them?
So there's two things. Sorry, Arne. There's two things that are kind of I'm thinking from the perspective of someone who might run a tournament. There's probably two things. I wouldn't necessarily be against having to be on the NZDG tour if I wanted to sanction my event, right? But there'd be two concerns. One, and this is maybe getting into the detail, which I don't know whether this has been kind of flushed through yet. It obviously will be, but I don't know where we're at with it. And one is the cost per player or whatever. How's that going to change my, profit loss, etc. for the tournament that I'm running, and also what requirements will NZDG need that are over and above what I would have done anyway. Either by way of
like a standard system, right?
Either by way of kind of advertising or registrations or prizes or anything like that. How does that? What are those kind of two things? I don't know if you've got
simple one. So the cost. Both Ewan and I ran on a campaign. Look at us. Of reducing the cost to tournament directors. So we thought that $5 and $7 per player per tournament was ridiculous. So look, there's a number of mechanisms. We can either reduce the cost to $3, $2, $1, or we can cap the total take. So for something like the Xtreme with 150 plus players at $5 per player, that should net NZDG quite a decent amount of money. We've waived the fees for that one, but we could look at a model of capping the amount that we take. So it could be $5 per player, but capped at $100, $200, so on
per person
per tournament.
Okay.
Yeah. So because inevitably, if we're able to get 100% of sanctioned disc golf under the NZDG tour, instead of taking $5 per player per tournament for 22 or 24 tournaments, we're taking $1 or $2 per player per tournament for 75 tournaments. And so the amount should balance out a little bit. But this is not the only form of income that NZDG can create. So especially with, and then the second question around the standards, to be honest, we don't set the standards. The PDGA set the standards. There is a set of expectations within the International Player Program Guide, and then there is a set of guidelines, but strong recommendations.
Yeah.
The guidelines are set for countries like Africa, Kenya, Mexico, places in the world where there's only one course in the entire country and maybe one sanctioned disc golf event. And I'm talking about the C tier level.
Yeah.
Inevitably, within the guidelines, we should be knocking those out of the park in New Zealand, really.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to be shooting at B tier and above.
All right. Okay. Move us on then.
Yep. Tom?
Before you move on, may I just readdress the chat?
Yep.
Because I think there's some good comments and questions going into the chat. So Scott Burgess said, and obviously this is going on for what you were saying just before, but he said, which is fine as long as the national body doesn't restrict the ability to, ability of tours and TDs to be creative.
100%.
We go. Leon said, Elite Series is happy to fall under the NZDG tour, simply be a part of the tour as a higher level of tour organization. Brett Carlisle, I don't think it's the elite side, more the boutique local events that might ask why they need to engage in the national body. And that, I suppose, is, when I'm looking at this, when I'm questioning you on this one, because I want to know, what I'm going to get my bang for buck is the sort of tournaments that I run for the one-day sort of series events like Montana.
They're the ones that are going to have the biggest kind of, you're going to get those questions wrong.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I do just want to run through the rest of these. Sorry. Will the NZDG proposal increase the entry fee of events across the country? You kind of touched on that one. Brett Carlisle, especially if there are fees involved that leave the region as a result.
Yeah.
There's
a conversation in the chat going on. We'll if there's questions that the chat have, then please feel free to fire them through, and we'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of points
keen to
coming up
keep us
in the chat
moving along with.
I think this model may help explain, but I can hear Ewan
grumbling
in the background.
Not really grumbling. Can I just stick two comments in there, just sort of reading the chat through as well? So, just for clarity, we are in the conversation we're having here talking about just PDGA sanctioned events. So, there's still nothing, if you really want to be really boutique and you are worried about that, there's nothing stopping you like we are with Christchurch Club Champs later this year not being sanctioned. So you could still pop a really cheap tournament out and not, this is we're talking specifically about PDGA sanctioned events.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people though, I think for a lot of people, sorry, Ewan, that it's nice having it PDGA sanctioned, not least because of one, what the tournament director gets in terms of the PDGA tournament manager, and what the players get in terms of being able to score systems. I know there's alternatives out there, namely UDisc, but like people's rating, I think people like their to watch their rating and do shoot to try and improve their rating. At least that might just be me again, but that I think that it's quite valuable, the PDGA sanctioning.
Yeah. Look, we recognize that as well. If we can reserve some of the questions, there's some good stuff coming up in the chat until I go through the model about how it potentially would work.
Let's stop interrupting you, and we'll.
That's the aim of my evening, is just to keep poking them in the side and really probing questions.
Obviously, a bit of a reminder there that, like Arne said, there is still a huge process ahead. This is just an initial conversation. So actual figures and numbers and that, none of that's, it's all hypothetical what we're discussing.
But you are a little bit down the line of the chat. I mean, you've obviously got some idea of systems in place. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be sat here having this chat tonight, for one.
Yeah, look, I haven't created a system that I don't believe in.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is, this is the direction you guys want to go. You've kind of made a decision, but there's a lot of change and variables that are going to come within this. Yeah, just getting a real broad idea of the direction you actually want to go.
Yeah. In technical speak, legally, I can't make this happen.
No.
This has to be, whatever the NZDG does, inevitably is at the will of our membership. And that's where the importance of the democratic process of voting in someone that you believe in counts. If you don't like what I've put forward, then I don't know, maybe step up and run. And that's probably a little bit of a harsh tone.
It's the right tone.
No, it's fair. That's fair. That's a fair show.
Yeah. So look, I'll take you through this model. I'll get into the details, but inevitably at the moment, there's only one way for NZDG to make money, so to speak. When I say make money, we're not for profit. We can't make profit. It goes out at the moment in media grants and different sort of stuff, right? That is through the per player, per tournament fee. We're calling it a levy, not a membership fee. Because if it was a membership fee, as I said all along, I paid that membership fee 8 times last year, and some other people probably paid it once. So what I'm proposing for the next season and the ongoing seasons is that people have the opportunity to purchase a tour card. The tour card is something that's not a new idea. Not having a tour card won't stop you from entering events, but you won't collect tour points. So that's the sort of the value add for the tour card.
Mm-hmm.
The constitutional change I'm putting there for fairness, and one that I think is actually a lot more legal, is that we're going to propose in a separate proposal a change to the membership structure, so that you wouldn't automatically become a member of NZDG by playing an event.
Okay.
You would have to join NZDG.
Right.
Now, I'm opening up a massive workload and can of worms there with that conversation, but if we can keep the membership conversation to the side, the reason I've brought it up is that the tour card would not only buy your entry into the NZDG tour, it would buy your membership to NZDG.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'd do the cost there. And then the other one would be it's up for the membership to decide what the fee is going to be, but around about the $2 or $3 mark for each tournament per player, or capping it at a couple of $100 or $100 per tournament. Those two income streams go into what we would call NZDG tour revenue. Now, my proposal is that 80% of all of those funds go into a pot of money for the tour.
Okay. And is that being kind of costed out
for other stuff that NZDG want to do? Schools, programs, paying for the website, our accountant stuff, all of the operational costs.
It feels like a really fair number, and if anything, I almost think it's not enough.
Yeah, look,
Well, so has that been has it been kind of you've done the numbers on this and calculated that, you know, based on numbers of people attending tournaments.
Maybe I'm being a little bit
cards,
selfish here, but I think that if the tour's the mainstream of income, then the tour should be the thing that gets most of the money.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a way for NZDG to access further funds outside of the tour through membership fees, through any form of Sport New Zealand money, grants, so on and so forth, then that's a mechanism for them to create a pot of money. But as a tour player, I'd be pretty ripped if 50% of what I'm playing is going to someone else off in the distance. Some people might not, but I think 80-20 is a fair split. And look, the other thing to put into that is we don't want to make tour cards $500. You know, we want to make them as affordable as possible. And so if we were to make it 50-50, then the pot of money going into the tour revenue would only be in the thousands. So we want to be able to support the NZDG tour with something. So yeah, any questions about how the money works before I get into the actual tour proposal?
Nope, not from me, sir.
Cool.
I think there's obviously a lot more running of numbers to figure out what the exact number is. I do like your line of thinking that the money that's coming from the tour goes back to the tour.
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly 80%, the number that you threw out there. Yeah, that's definitely one to work on a little bit. I feel you know, when we're talking about Calvin wanting to do these schools programs, he is going to need some more funding stream. And if we really, as a country, want to see the growth of the sport, we need to be promoting schools and things like that. And if we're not finding another income revenue stream for that, then it does have to come from within. And 20% probably isn't. And that wouldn't be 20% straight to that. So
But we have a mandate from the last AGM. It was a member's motion that a really handsome person raised. And it was to channel the money that was previously invested into travel grants and invest that into some form of schools or juniors program. We haven't been able to give Calvin that, but he's working real hard in the background on getting a curriculum that's recognised by NCEA for kids in high schools.
That's incredible.
And so we're not at the point where we need the money just yet, but also the PDGA have put massive support into a really cool juniors concept that Ewan won't announce tonight, but in 2025 there's going to be something pretty awesome for juniors in disc golf in New Zealand, and the PDGA are going to provide some funding for that. So from this point of view, what I'm saying is NZDG Tour pays for NZDG Tour. The other stuff we need to find, as NZDG, we need to find other funding for. And then if it's not forthcoming, then that's up to the board to decide, actually, can we shift some of that money over?
Okay. Well, question from the chat, Morgan, and it's a fair one. You said that the tour card, sorry, for Arne, not Morgan. You said the tour card wouldn't be $500. What would it be?
That's, again, I haven't set prices. I've run a couple of scenarios in my head about what I can afford to pay, but my story's not someone up in Christchurch's story. So inevitably what we need to do is get some feedback on that. My sort of figure in my head's, you know, somewhere around the lines of $50 for the year. So something that's almost like another half a tournament.
If you were to look at, you know, the amount of tournaments that every person's played in the country, take the $7 fee, do the math around that, I suppose you could figure out a number that each person is technically paying on average. The median number.
So I'm a bit of a gate. I think I paid 8 or 9 NZDG tournaments, maybe 8 last year. So that's 8 times 5 or 7. Let's call it 5, $40 is what I paid through to it.
Easier math, that one.
So we're sort of looking around that mark, but you know, I need to understand people's stories you know.
Okay.
And we need to get feedback from Michaela, who does our points. She doesn't sort our points, but she does the algorithms and things like that. So
just to be
just
to be clear on this, the process of this isn't this is our decision. It's these are some ideas. We need some feedback on these ideas, and then it'll get put into a document to be voted on by the membership. And then if the membership pass it, then it becomes a thing.
Yeah, so my idea is that basically that we would, sorry, I'll go, sort of talk about it tonight, and then maybe do another one of these NZDG chats where people, like a Q&A about it, and then open up for a period of feedback, consultation, make some amendments.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
You definitely need to have one of your NZDG Skype calls. This is not the forum to be able to kind of discuss this with the greater New Zealand public. But
Well, Ewan,
what we want to do here is just people to view this as a conversation starter. So what you're looking at in front of you there is a good 2-3 weeks of sort of putting ideas into paper, and that comes off the back of 2 other, maybe it's 3 or 4 other documents that both Matt Pritchard and myself have written. So collectively, we've invested between the 3 of us maybe 6 weeks of our time, in the background to get to this point. And then what we want to see now is get that conversation going. Are we on the right track? Are we miles off? Where are we sitting with this before we go and keep putting another 5, 6, 7 weeks into this to get down? And I think I touched on that before. There is, like, to enact this, there's going to be a lot of work that we're prepared to do. But it needs to be fruitful.
Yeah. So the tangibles, I suppose, come down to what is it? So I've tried so many different versions of the way that the tour could work. At one stage, in my thought process, the NZDG tour would become 10 tournaments only, and that tournaments would bid to be on a part of the tour. But inevitably that doesn't sort of talk to growing the game. So what I've come with is to split the tour into a North Island and South Island tour. And that's to basically bring a little bit of balance to the entire thing. That will only work, though, if there is a mechanism to find out who the tour champion is. And so the long and short of it, you can read it if you want to, is that there'd be a North Island tour, a South Island tour, and then the top finishers in all divisions of those tours would be invited to a tour championship.
Okay.
Just like we've seen on the weekends, and that the winner of that would become the tour champion.
And so, just to be clear, it doesn't. If you play in one, you're not precluded from the other. And if you, for example,
I'm speaking out of term. I need to speak with Michaela about the way that the points work.
Yeah.
But we can work out a system in which the points can be crossed over. So you could play maybe 4 in the North Island, 2 in the South, and get your South Island points transferred over.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. It's going to be interesting how that kind of works, because if I don't know if there's anyone like me out there, I can, from a family and finances perspective, I get to about 1, maybe 2, but probably only 1 South Island tournament a year, right? And it's a little bit of a treat, and I get to look forward to it. Christchurch, I'm coming for you in February.
We're getting harder on the par 4s down here, mate. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I hope so. But
I think he deserves to go to at least one more event. I mean, if his watch just shot to Australia today,
just wait, right? So, and so for me, those points that I might earn, do I have to buy a South Island tour card as well as a North Island one?
No.
It's just a one.
Yeah.
Just one tour card for the whole thing.
One tour card for the whole country.
Yeah.
It's the same amount for both islands. But if we can get to the point where North Island season runs, a South Island season runs, obviously the South Island champs and the North Island champs will carry the most points.
Mhm.
I'd be really keen to look at looking at some of those really old school historic events that are really set in the calendar, and weighting them with the points. But that's up to the membership as well. But to have something where you're playing against your peers, I think, is probably the biggest one. And your peers typically are the people that live in and around you, right? Around your region. So an argument maybe for Disc Golf South, Queenstown, Wanaka, Dunedin was sort of roughly in the same area. Waimate, Christchurch, Ashburton, that sort of stuff. Nelson's potentially an outlier there because, where does it sit? But we potentially could go and talk to the Nelson Disc Golf Club and work out where their membership will want to sit in the North Island Tour or the South Island Tour. So that's basically what it comes down to.
I think too that recognises some of the comments that did come back out of our Q&A session around the draft tour policy earlier in the year. And that was one of the suggestions made, was about looking at splitting that, because there is quite a cost in getting across Cook Strait at this point. So that's obviously something we've taken as a sort of an idea and sort of run with a wee bit, and like I say, whether or not it comes to fruition, that's something that's been suggested. We're looking into it.
I even did a cost benefit analysis on the average cost of what it costs a person to go to a disc golf tournament in a metropolitan area. So I did Auckland, Taupo, Wellington, Christchurch, and Queenstown and Invercargill. And Invercargill was the cheapest.
Yeah. Oh, is it really? I can imagine that. For a number of reasons, but I can imagine that Taupo is probably one of the more expensive ones.
Auckland was the most expensive for funny reasons.
Accommodation.
Cost of accommodation is what really pushed them up. I mean, Taupo does the same, but you want to have accommodation that's close to their courses, which is typically on the outskirts of Auckland, or the cheaper accommodations close to the city, that sort of thing. Anyway, I just thought it was worth thing. One probable thing that people may have brought up in the chat I haven't seen yet, but that could be controversial, is I don't think Nationals needs to be on the tour.
That has not come up in the chat just yet.
So I'm quite keen to hear what you guys think about it. Ewan sort of asked me a couple of questions about what's your rationale there, but before I get into it, I'm quite keen to hear what people think about my sort of opinion that Nationals doesn't need to be on the tour.
I don't think it
needs going to be an event that's paid for and run by NZDG.
It's one of our majors.
But are you going to run it rather than just be a side? It was absolutely not the right thing to say.
Yeah.
A part of it, but not actually running it.
No, I don't think so. I think there's good. I'm not going to speak for Ewan. I think he's one of the better tournament directors around the country. But why would we stand in the way of a Hayden Shaw or a Martin Galley, or I'll put you up there, I suppose, bro. The guys that have done it for so long, so many times, why would we stand them in their way? If you guys, whoever, whether Nationals is good or bad, that is a reflection on the tournament director, but it's also a reflection on NZDG. So we've got a lot more to lose by not running the tournament.
I kind of feel like if you're going to take it away from the tour and it's going to be a standalone event, it almost needs to be an NZDG ran event, no matter who the TD is. It could be me, it could be Hayden, it could be you, whoever, but an actual NZDG event.
Yeah, I mean,
not a co-hosted event.
I think definitely the way that I look at events, and I think Ewan can fall into this as well, it's not necessarily about where, like when we talk about Nationals, North Island champs, South Island champs, regardless of whether this proposal goes ahead, we need to find someone to run that in 2026, in the 25-26 season. I don't want the next board to come in with a tournament director that doesn't have a venue for that. I would like to have that announced before Christmas. So if you want to run South Island Champs, North Island Champs, we haven't officially opened the process. Ewan's probably cringing in the background, but we want to be able to set that a year in advance so people can plan. So there's that. I would potentially say, dependent on who it is that is the tour director or involved in the board, that there may be room for what I'm talking about being the Tour Championship and Invitational to be run by someone on the NZDG board.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. And presumably with nationals not being on the tour, it's precluded from the sanctioning restriction.
Yeah. No. Yeah, good point.
Okay.
There was a point brought up by Mr. Wheellake actually in the chat over here.
He knows a bit about disc golf.
Okay.
He does know a bit about disc golf, does he, Ben? But he was just sort of pointing out, it's just like if it's not going to be on the tour. But then you're also sort of going back to your point from earlier that every event that's sanctioned in New Zealand, that you want it to come under NZDG, but they're not technically don't need to be on a tour, right?
No. They technically don't. I'm just saying that there's an opportunity here to assign points to every tournament. But also, and this is what Ewan brought up, why would I go to nationals? The only way you can become a national champion is to win nationals. Winning the NZDG tour doesn't make you a national champion. Winning nationals makes you a national champion.
Yeah.
So you're honestly going to tell me that you're not going to go to nationals because it's not on the NZDG tour? I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the reality is the way that tournaments in New Zealand are going at the upper end of the scale. Nationals is probably going to be up around the B plus A tier level from now on. You're not going to have a C tier nationals from now on.
Oh, no.
So you're talking about a nationals that are going to have, if it's an A tier, $5,000 minimum pro payout. Because that's what the PDGA says. It is 5,000, right?
I brought that page up intentionally just before.
5,000 US. 5,000 US.
Oh, so I'm looking in the wrong bloody line. Yeah.
It's got the minimum.
Okay.
Anyway.
Let's move on. What's have you come to the end of where
there's a couple of other things in there that are relevant. Obviously, we don't get the opportunity for the teams to go away and compete as New Zealand. So we've got the Flying Kiwis going to the World Flying Disc Federation Teams event in Perth soon. That's awesome. Buy some discs. I'll shout out Mikey. Buy some discs off Mikey for a fundraiser if you want to. But, just being named in the team is actually a bit of an accolade as well, right?
Yeah, no, I can see that.
So having a ceremonial team. So, my ideal is, in MA40, amateur masters, 40 plus, 40 to 50 New Zealand team. Imagine it, Matt.
Yeah, but I am. Yeah,
living it.
Look, I agree. That would be that's a nice touch. It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
So from here, your plan is to host a number of Skype calls, Teams chats, corridors, however you decide to run it, which will gather feedback from the public on this proposal and gather ideas, which will allow you to iterate this proposal.
Look, I'll set out a timeline. The timeline will be, we have a board meeting next Tuesday, in which the board have had the bigger version, the full version of this document for a couple of weeks now. We'll look at potentially deciding when that online chat's going to be.
Yep.
When we've decided when the online chat is going to be and we advertise it, we'll release the document for the members. We'll send it to the members, and then they'll have at least a week to look at it, come up with questions, and then come to the chat. Look, basically the way that it'll work is whatever feedback that is given, I am taking this to an SGM or an AGM, some version of this. There's some details in it that need to be thought about, but I'm taking some version of this for a vote by membership to an SGM.
Well, look,
and if they don't like it, they can just vote no.
So so that's the plan for the next stages. I do want to wrap it up there because I think that we could talk about this all night, but it probably wouldn't be the best thing to do. And we do have a couple of other things that we want to cover off in the show. Not least, we've got to get a duck race sorted and all that kind of stuff. So,
Tom Baker in the background. Light that duck race up for the next 10 minutes. We'll give these guys a countdown to when we're going to kick them out.
So look, do any of you, Arne or Ewan, do you have any sort of parting thoughts on this subject before we move on?
I'll let Ewan have the last one, so I'll go now. I just want to do a big shout out to the big man in the other camera. Well, I went into the NZDG election touting that Ewan was the hardest working guy in New Zealand disc golf. The work has gone through the absolute roof, beyond the absolute roof. Everything that everyone has seen Ewan do in tournaments, he's doing tenfold in the background. And so it's a big shout out to him. And then the other thing around that is to all of the NZDG directors. They're all putting in massive amounts, and I'll put myself in there as well, of their own personal time, creating documents, trying to do the best thing that they can do for disc golf. So when someone puts a proposal out, I'm not saying, hey, please don't yell at me. I'm saying, this is just an idea. If you've got a different idea, raise it. Come and feed into it. Because sitting in the background and just going, no, I don't like it, I'm just going to vote it down. I mean, that's your right, but this is my offer to everyone in the chat and who contributes. Come on, get on board. Give me an alternative idea. If I like it, I'll put it forward.
Okay, fair enough. Ewan?
So I would just add to that. Look, we did do obviously feedback and submissions around the draft tour policy. I know we haven't really done anything with that since. That's what it appears like, but that you were heard. We did listen to some of that, and some of that has been fed back into that document. That document is still live, and we're working on that, and that will be part of this conversation going forward as well.
Yeah. Same
here. What we're asking for is feedback, and we'll do that in a process similar. You will be heard. It might take us another 3 or 4 months to process that and then tweak our document, come back to you, but you will be heard. Yes. And that's the same, just touching on what Arne said. There's a lot of volunteer hours and that are going into this for what we see as a way to evolve disc golf in New Zealand. And then if we're on the wrong track, we also want to know now so that we can change track. You know, we need to tailor something that's going to suit what the membership want, and that actually keeps us moving forward.
Quite time sensitive, right? Quite time sensitive, right, Ewan? Realistically, the months will just disappear. You know, we're headed into Christmas, and
there is a sort of desire from my side, particularly when I'm driving the directive back at the board, that we do also give TDs and that a decent amount of time where we can to be able to survey the landscape as it's going to be and see how they fit within that and what changes they need to make too. So yeah, we do want to do this sooner than later where possible.
Yep.
But again, this is about evolving how we handle things in our policies and that to better suit that goal of growing the disc golf game in New Zealand. And I mean, realistically, if we don't make some form of change, I mean, not saying the whole lot, but some form of change, what we're doing now with the income stream we have, this is as good as it gets.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. All right. Look, we're going to pause or move away from the tour policy stuff for now. Ewan, I think we're going to say goodbye to you now.
Burgess and your big feet.
So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Oh my word, what is going on?
Oh, Arne's big foot just got a little rowdy.
Excellent. So we're going to go into some news now. We've got some bits and pieces that have been happening around New Zealand. Morgan, did you see that Team Ocean Discs has launched? I don't know whether you saw this earlier on in the week.
I did see that. It's actually on my screen right now. Sorry, I was just checking. Are we saying goodbye to Ewan? He seems to have disappeared off one of my screens.
Yes, he's gone.
Thank you, Ewan. Arne's obviously still next to me. I'm going to hold on to him for the rest of the chat. He might be useful for some of this.
So we
Thank
got
you very much.
In Team Ocean Discs, you've got Mark Tebbett, Amy Whitmore, Andrew Barnett, and Riley Bruce, who are part of the NZDSS Team Ocean Disc kind of team. So
just the New Zealand Team Ocean Discs. You know, it's pretty cool that Ollie again came back into New Zealand with the these awesome discs. The Sea Turtle. He started playing disc golf in Queenstown, so obviously starting to put together a bit of a team down under was on his radar. You might not have brought it up last time that we had a chat, but it's obviously something that's been working in the background. So I'm pretty stoked to see that little group of people right there are all amazing, and I'm excited to see them throwing this epic bit of plastic around the course.
Go and check out their Facebook and Instagram pages and follow along to see how they get on. Did you see that Gannon Burr won the Tour Championship, the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship?
I did. I just realised I had Champions Cup from April up on my screen. I was like, yeah, that's not the winner from this weekend.
I mean,
he did.
So
he did.
Is he the best?
He came right back with the biggest deficit from second place in a major, 6 shots over Ricky Wysocki, who sort of just fell off on that last round there. Spoilers, shouldn't be watching a disc golf show if you don't want spoilers. Rick came in really hot through those first few rounds, and then that last round he just couldn't get away from level par until it was almost too late. Gannon had caught him, and then once Gannon catches fire, it's out of control, isn't it? We've seen what he's done all season, and he's just done it once again.
Is he the best to have played disc golf?
No. No, he's the best player. No. That's I think no. Right,
he's the most dominant.
No, he's not.
This year's the most dominant performance.
How do you rate that against Paul Macbeth with all the years that he's won world titles?
Well, and also Ken Climo, who's got 12, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he's the best right now, and technically he probably is the best player that's ever played the game. That's not the most dominant player.
Discraft.
Yeah, but so look, this conversation could go on forever, and it's probably best enjoyed when in a different forum. But so I know it's a good question. If you saw any of the action there over the last weekend, then
sure. One thing, Matt, that I do want to point out is right now we're at the. I've sort of been keeping an eye on the viewers of the show this evening. We're currently at our highest viewers for the show tonight. So 47 of you coming to us live across whichever platform, most likely YouTube, that you're watching us on. Thank you very much for joining us. It's amazing to have you here. Make sure you hit that like, follow, subscribe button, and hit us up on Patreon. And if you do want to support us further.
Absolutely, and don't forget that when we get into some of our giveaways, you do get extra entries. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can go to patreon.com/sweetchainlive and find out more information. Now, Morgan, you've got about 2 minutes left on this duck race.
I have been keeping half an eye on that one down there. I was going to call it.
Can we get it bigger, Tom? Can we get it bigger? I don't know if that's something that
dominate. We'll just talk in the background because
who's winning at the moment? Can we see?
Well, I think within the next at least minute and a half, we can quickly run through Queenstown Gardens Spring League kicked off last night down here in Queenstown at the Gardens, obviously. We got met with horrid weather, not really raining. We got a little bit of a trickle, but mostly windy. I mean, I started off my round with a freaking 6 on the most easy par 3 out there. Just putted straight past the basket on my first, went way down the hill and took 3 more to get back there, and then another couple of putts or whatever works out to 6. That's how I did it. But awesome to be back in a PDGA league. That's something we wanted to touch on tonight, right, Matt, was costs of leagues, who's doing leagues, where can we get involved in leagues?
Well, this is it. So, we've got a minute till the duck race finishes, so we'll start the conversation and then we'll come back to it. it's not the only league being run at the moment. The Harcourt Park Greater Wellington Disc Golf Spring League is starts next week, and the Spring League actually has got, as of now, 69 players signed up. Right, 69 players.
That's amazing.
Signed up for it. Now, I doubt that we'll get 69 players all in next Wednesday. It would be weird if we did, actually, because there's only 9 baskets. You play off 2 different teams.
Yeah, so that might make things interesting. I'm just going to break you off right here. We've got 19 seconds left in this race. Carl Larson down the bottom of the screen. Just gone to a gentleman that Adam and I met at Lake Ohau Lodge in about 3 years ago is taking it up the outside here. Arne Burgess coming up, but then
is this
right at
Lance
the top
Easton at the top?
We've
Lance
got him
Easton
down
with a dash for the end.
Oh,
Lancey boy, brand new sponsor of Vortica Disc Golf, gets the job done. He'll be out there representing on the hot ones, the spicy hot ones quiz on the Friday evening. Congratulations, or maybe not congratulations, maybe commiserations to you having to get in on what I have planned. You are the 3rd spot. Thank you for that duck race, Tom. We can now continue on with the show.
Okay. So Friday. Okay, guys. Because this is, I wanted.
He's going to be useless after that.
Okay, guys. Look, I wanted this to be a semi kind of serious conversation, right? And so, chat, I need your input here as well. The Harcourt Park League, which starts next week, is priced at $10 for the season, for the 8 weeks. Yep. If you don't want to play or don't think you can play the whole thing, you can pay $5 if you're just in the town and you're here for 1 week. You can pay $5 and get a sanctioned round for that one day. Otherwise, it's $10 to enter, and then if you, I think there's a discount if you're a Greater Wellington Disc Golf Club member, then it's free. But if you're not a member, it's a gold coin donation each week. I think something like that, right?
Okay.
Now, Christchurch Disc Golf League is free to enter.
Non-sanctioned,
as far as I'm aware. Oh no, it's not free to enter. It's $30 for a man and a woman, and then slightly cheaper for a junior.
Also match play.
And it's and you've got to be a Christchurch Disc Golf Club member, and it's match play, and it's unsanctioned. Morgan, your Queenstown League, how much do you charge for the Queenstown League?
It's free for club members. So that's something that your yearly entry to being a club member is providing for you. So the club's paying for the $35 USD sanctioning fee, whatever that works out to, $55 NZ.
Yeah.
And then if anyone in the chat's not aware, for each sanctioned round per player is
about
$50 cents US.
About 80 New Zealand cents.
Yeah, where 50% of that minimum has to go to PDGA, and the other 50% can go or should go either to the PDGA or to the club hosting. Sorry, couldn't spit that word out.
So there's the costs, right? So you've got so for anybody who didn't know, if you want to run a league in New Zealand, the cost is $35 US, so about 55 New Zealand dollars, plus about 80 cents per person per round. So if one person plays 8 rounds, that's 8 times 80 cents added on, and it all gets bundled up at the end, right? So however much you charge for an event, I think unless a club is willing to kind of take that cost on themselves, and it can quickly add up, right? If you had these 69 players and they all played, say, 5 weeks out of the 8, which would be about average for the Harcourt round, right? That's 345 rounds, right? So that's coming close to sort of $280 in sanctioning fees, and then the 35 on top of that. That's $300. So you need to kind of recoup those costs from somewhere else, right? And so what I think is what I'm interested in is what's a fair amount of money to charge for a league, right?
So I guess Sorry, I was jumping straight into that for you. I think like it all comes down to who's running it and what their time's worth to them. For me, I just like doing it to sort of give a little bit back to the club. And I know the club's covering it this year, but previously I've done it, and the way we've just charged it is bang on covering whatever the costs are, split between the people. And you kind of have to, you have to, when you're doing that costing, you have to base it off everybody being there every week. Yeah. And that just is what it is. If you don't show up for a week, you've lost 80 cents, as you say. So you just base it off of that. If a club wants to make a bit of money, then you could chuck a little bit more on top. 50% can go back to the club per those fees. So
that's a good point, actually, because people forget that a helix is like 900 euro connection, almost $1,000 for a helix. Not to mention the concrete, the time it takes to put in a basket. T-pads alone, in concrete and tiles and work and whatnot. The average cost of putting a course in goes up around the $30,000 mark. So
it's pricey, right? It's pricey.
They've got to make money. They've got to.
Yeah, and this is where my point is, right? Is that personally, and this is a conversation that I had with a few guys this week. And one of the comments that came up, and I can't remember who in the chat mentioned it, so apologies. But it's important not to undervalue value that you have, right? So if a club runs a league that is providing sanctioned disc golf for 70 odd people every week for 8 weeks, right? The value there, I think, is a lot greater than $10 total. I was kind of astounded. Now I know that in the past, this is kind of partly my fault, I guess, because I started the spring and summer leagues at Hardcore Park 3 years ago, and when I ran them, it was done at the most minutest cost I could get, right? So I think I said gold coin donation, and that alone covered it, right? Because people would give me a couple of bucks, and that would normally be okay.
Covers the fees.
Sanctioning. Yeah. But now the kind of expectation going forward is that, well, that's what it costs to enter a league. It's basically free. Now, and I was kind of thinking about this. I'd be happy, personally, to pay $50 for the league instead of 10. Right? I don't think that that's an unreasonable amount to pay for 8 weeks of entertainment, if you like. And admittedly, I'm providing some of that entertainment in a way. But I don't know. I think if I was new to disc golf and someone said, "Oh yeah, there's a weekly league, runs for 8 weeks, and it's going to cost you $50 for the whole time," I'd be like, "Well, yeah, that seems fine."
The issue is that we're comparing disc golf to disc golf. I think what I've noticed coming to disc golf from other sports is understanding that disc golf's a really strange sport with regards to what we pay to play. Because, for instance, to get a membership at the Queenstown Golf Club, that's about $1,000 a year, and that's pretty cheap for golf, and especially in Queenstown, right? I used to play indoor netball, indoor cricket a couple of times a week. That was $12 a game 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's still in that region. I spoke to a friend yesterday who is playing in a indoor netball weekly thing, right? And there's like 8 people on the team, and he says that he deals with all the money and he gets everybody to pay him at the beginning of the season so that fewer people drop out if he does that. And so he takes everybody's $148 or whatever it is. And so for a team, and admittedly that's a team, but that's still $150 that people are paying to play indoor netball. Now, indoor netball have got things like they've got to rent the courts, they've got to pay a ref, they've got to upkeep the whatever. There's a little bit more costs kind of involved. We don't have to pay any referees or spotters. We don't have to hire the courses in most of the places that you typically play a league. Certainly for Hardcore Park, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
so those costs don't need to be covered.
A real strange model of disc golf.
Yeah.
Because as disc golfers, and I think a couple of weeks ago you were in the UK, I was on with Morgan, and we talked to Avery about this whole pay to play concept. You know, there's certain areas of disc golf that the term pay to play is a dirty word. That's a swear word. You know, like
I'm not paying
to
for
step
the play.
back from time to time, and realize how unique of a sport we are.
Yeah. There's such an interesting outlook though, right, on disc golf. Like, there's so many people that'll happily go and drop $50 on bugger all right now.
Don't know. I don't know anything about
it. Yeah.
Well, no, but look how when you look at people's bags, right? There's hundreds of dollars of plastic in someone's bag, and yet if you said, "Oh, can you pay $25 for this league instead of 10?" It's like you've gone into their house at Christmas and pissed on their Christmas tree. It's just like, what is going on? Like, I'm not happy.
It's because last night at the Gardens, people could have waited. You know, if it was paying to play in a league, if it was a charge, or they could have waited for everyone to go off. And then followed for free, and then asked everyone, "What do you get? What do you get? What do you get? I got more. I got better than you." So, in my head, I've won. There's no prizes. So it's that unique thing of outside of sanctioned disc golf, we can play it for free. And so, and this is one of the conversations I can't get through to my wife. You know, she just doesn't understand what the point of a tournament is.
Don't go there.
What do you pay to play it when you can, when you can go and play it for free?
I agree, and I'd be one of those people who'd be quite happy to pay $50 at least for the Hardcore League, right? Because even $50 divided by the 8 weeks, right? It's just over $5 a week. It's barely anything. I get 2 hours.
I guess
at least 2 hours of entertainment out of that, and it's like and a sanctioning. And so,
but some people though, that is a hard amount of, and to be fair, that's a hard amount of money for a number of people to come up with in one spell, right?
Yep,
everyone's not in the same boat. Now it comes back to people being able to pay that $5 a week. But then that also, the problem with that side of things is when they don't start showing up and their fees aren't being paid the same as everyone else's, even though they're so low.
This is my thing. Like we said, it's a lot of money to come up all at once, but we'll pay. Tournaments in New Zealand are getting to a pretty. I'm not going to say ridiculous because
we're not too long until a tournament shows up with a 2 in front of it, right?
Well, we're
practically there. It's not going to be too long before a tournament shows up and says, "Oh, yeah, we want a little bit more than $200 for our tournament," which no one's done it yet, but I'm sure it will happen. And Iran's comment about wait until your 2 kids want to play the league and then it's $150 per league. Yeah, I mean it would cost more, but guess what? I'm still doing it. And
Iran has 2 kids.
No.
I think he's talking to me.
He's referring to me. He's talking to me.
Yeah. He's referring to you two.
Well, this is the thing. There's not many tournament directors or clubs in the country that aren't heavily discounting juniors or making them free.
No, well, that's it, right? I totally agree with that. And actually, that's a point for the Hardcore League. I think juniors are free. I don't think you pay for juniors. So yeah, if kids did want to show up and their parents just wanted to walk around with them, then that's it's free to do that. But yeah, chat. What do you think? Am I being unreasonable by saying $50? Am I flexing by saying $50 is a fair amount to pay? I don't think I am. I think it's a reasonable price to pay for the value that the league gives me, which
for sure. I suppose the value comes out in prizes and that too. I can't quite see it right now, but Leon said some are up there, or someone said that there's awesome prizes going for the Christchurch League. Whereas this Queenstown one that's free, if you win, you're most likely going to win a little cactus. That cost us $4 from thingy. It's a nice token that you get to look at.
I think it's interesting how sometimes there's sometimes instances where you get free tournaments or free events and then a grumble when there's not a prize at the end. Okay, so I think
Can I do a shameless plug? Can I do a shameless plug? And it's not for me. It's for our good mates Altitude Brewing. They for the second year in a row have come up and they're sponsoring the league. So they give a free beer to the first 24 people that show up to league every week, which is actually a shitload of money. I didn't have any big language for that, so apologies if that hit you wrong. But
so look, chat. Let us know in the comments. What do you think is the right amount to pay for a league? Because it's an interesting conversation, and with leagues starting to get back run up now with longer evenings, and they're all around the country. There was a comment about there's Christchurch, obviously. There was one in Dunedin which is kicking off as well. So look, there's probably a league going on in your town. So let us know what you think the right amount to pay is.
Johnny just put in the chat the Japan Open was 400 New Zealand. I actually think it was closer to the 450 mark, and I have played probably 3 tourneys at a 350, 400 NZ plus. And man, do you get your money's worth when you go to those events? So I actually, as soon as we finished Japan Open, I would pay that money tenfold to just play that event over and over and over and over and over. So it really comes back to player value, or value that you see and get from an event if you're going to pay more for it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Let's have a look at the Xtreme, shall we? It's the it's the first major of the season, and we have 144 players now. We're going to very quickly, we're going to be doing quick fire tips here from the two of you. So what I want to know is the winner in each division from both of you. Arne, go for it.
Arne's wife's trying to call him.
Winner from that is going to be none other than Jonathan White. I'm going to get there before Morgan can.
I've got a knife in my hand, so I can agree. So, yeah, you can't say no to that. I agree. It's definitely going to be Johnny. And honestly, I think even with the caliber of players that are in there with him, I think he's going to take it down by 5 or 6 shots.
Wow. Okay. I'm putting my hat in the ring for Joseph as well.
For
Actually.
Joe Berry? I like that.
Joe Berry. Yeah. I think
because he had a great performance there against Jacko, right? Last time round.
Yeah, he's got history on this course.
Yeah, he does.
FPO.
That's a coin flip, I think. I think that's
one rating point between the two of them. Michelle has perhaps got more experience around this course.
She does, but then Michaela's had a lot of like higher tier event experience in the last.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, to be fair, I say that without going into Michelle's PDGA. She's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events this year. Without even looking at Michaela's, I feel like she's played 6 events overseas in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on then. Flip maybe the coin. Who are you going for?
Michaela Kerr.
Okay.
I'll go Michelle just to disagree with him.
Okay, I'm gonna break the tie then, and I'll say Michelle on this one. Let's go to MP40. Morgan, who've you got?
Oh God, like I'd love to say Mikey Yu coming from Queenstown, and I'll put all the respect on his name, but I don't think he's in the peak form that he's been in recently. And I think someone from the north might pip this one, and I might even give it to Wellington's own Jung Ha, because I would love to see him top of the table as well.
Yeah, look, I think he's capable. I think Mark Dakiv is looking would look good at this. This is one of those courses that I think if you've played it before, I think you've got an advantage, and I think Mark's played it perhaps more than others, and so yeah, I would say he's got a good chance. Let's go down to MA1. Josh Pratt is on form currently. Do you see anyone getting in his way?
I
mean, it's a stack.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Finn Rumors. Kick and throw.
Yeah. We're for those that are not aware, we're doing testing on the Sweet Chain website at the moment, and now I'm trying to remember who in the. Am I even allowed to say what the section is?
Oh, the tipping section. Yes.
Yeah. So in the tipping section that we're trialing at the moment, I can't quite remember who I had, but I feel like it might have been Ty. Engel K. I was just making sure that was an L. Thank you. I think I might have picked Ty, but I also could be wrong there. Right. I'll go with Ty.
You're going to go with Ty. Okay. Arne?
I'll go with Finn.
Rumours.
Oh, Finn. Yeah.
I just need to check that Luke Humphreys with the New Zealand Luke Humphreys.
Sorry, I waffled for so long there that we forgot that Arne had answered.
Okay, FA1.
Charlotte.
I'll go Hannah.
Yeah, I think Charlotte Dunkley as well. Yeah.
Yep.
MA40, the best division.
Where's your name?
Oh, I'm not playing.
There's no winners on the
playing.
day. There's no winners on the day. You're not there. But if there was, it would probably be Steve Scarborough.
You going Steve Scarborough? I think either James Sutton or I think Phil McLeod. If he can keep it in bounds, then I think Phil McLeod has got a good chance. He's got an arm for this course.
You heard it here first. Up the middle. Keep it on the grass.
Indeed. FA40.
Amy Whitmore all day.
Yep.
I'll say Kath. She's going to see.
It's only a matter of time, I think, before Kath starts really putting pressure on Amy in FA40. Yep. So we'll see how that goes.
And then in the wings right behind though, and nothing against Laura Baker, I just don't know her, but Edwina Mendoza's name coming up more and more frequently, right?
Yeah, it is. That FA40 division's getting pretty competitive. MA50.
He's in the chat, Steve Lawson.
Yeah, look, I think that's
yours to lose, Steve.
I think that's I think that's a pretty good shout. MA60.
Gary Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm going Gary Jarvis on this as well.
I know you love Gary Jarvis, so I'm trying to take your awesome takes before you can quite get there. And then Ming Menzies is coming out on the top in FA60.
I think that's fair.
Ming's been around a lot longer than I've been playing, but I do remember her from my very early days of playing and going forward. So I'd love to see her take that one down. MA2, 26 deep. MA2 becoming, is now the biggest division in all of disc golf in New Zealand, I think.
MA2 and MA3 are really hard to call, because there's a lot of names I just don't recognise, right? And this is
for sure.
This is one of the
shooting darts in the dark.
This is one of the things that the new website will be able to give you is it will actually give you odds on MA2 and MA3 divisions, so you'll be able to have a stab or have a better idea of who you think might be doing better in these divisions. But alternatively, they also tend to be divisions where it's far more wide open as well.
Too right.
Pretty stacked.
Paul McKernan. I'm going to go with Paul McKernan, who's about 10 places down. Drip Socks. Just noticed his name in there.
Oh yeah, excellent.
Formerly of Wanaka.
Okay.
Down into MA3. I love his name, Craig Snowball.
Okay, excellent. And he's going to be doing battle against his brother, presumably Damien, in the same division. So we'll look forward to a snowball fight there. And in FA3,
the far better side to Hayden, his lovely wife Libby Darrich.
He better be on the bag, surely.
Well, he will be. He's the
TD,
and it's a B tier, so he can't play. So
we can.
Yes,
he can. Can he?
It's only 18.
Oh, okay, but he's not.
Oh, for sure.
He's not playing.
Don't do that to me. I'm playing next week.
But he's not playing. So yeah.
No, he's not. He's actually, shout out to Hayden. There's a lot of the elements of the Xtreme that is running to an A tier standard. You'll notice that actually there may have been a couple of extra in there, but initially it was you must have a PDGA membership to play.
Oh wow!
I think it's one of few players. There might have been a couple of players in there when it didn't fill up, but that is a prerequisite of an A tier. Is that you must be a PDGA member. That's one of the hardest people there.
And then finally, MJ15.